and welcome to the Future Ready Schools webinar, Planning for Excellence in Your Library Program Using the Future Ready Librarian Framework. I'm really excited because this kind of wraps up our school season, the year of 2022-23 webinar series. And this one is one that I have been looking forward to because I recently had one of my podcasts with Monica and heard all about the amazing things that this group of librarians and others are doing in Wisconsin. And so it will be a wonderful one to end our season on, and just something to think about too as we go into the summer. This will be the link that will take you to the slides. If you need any of the resources, especially that I share at the end, they are all linked and you'll be able to get to everything that you need from this link or scan it with your QR code and you can pick it up there too. But my name is Shannon McClintock Miller. I'm the District Teacher Librarian and Innovation Director at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa. I also serve as the Future Ready Librarian spokesperson. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Shannon M. Miller. I blog at the Library Voice and I put my email in there if you ever need anything. As you're watching today and anytime, please remember that we have a conversation going on too on social using Future Ready Libs and Future Ready. And this is great to watch if you're on Twitter. If you're on Instagram, you can even tag things when you're on LinkedIn. And I love looking at what people are sharing. And I'll tell you a few more places too to connect with others at the end as well. But I am so excited, like I said, to welcome this amazing group that I heard about from my friend Monica. And she then found some friends to join her to tell their story about all the amazing things that they're doing in Wisconsin. And so, Monica, I'm going to let you and your group take it from here.
Great. Thank you, Shannon. So it's wonderful to work with you again and to be creating this webinar for all our friends out there. As Shannon said, I'm Monica Treptow. I am a school library media education consultant for the state of Wisconsin. And in my role, I work to support our school librarians throughout the state. We have about 421 districts in our state. And I help them navigate everything from spending money to following statute and code, which we'll talk about in a little bit, to just being there to, hear the stories. And I came to this role after being a school librarian myself for about 12 years. I had roles in elementary, middle, and high school, and I started my educational career as a high school English teacher. And with that, I want to turn it over to my great panel of great librarians from throughout the state. So Becky, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Becky Ackerman. I'm the library director for the Little Chute Area School District. We are the yellow star there up by the thumb of Wisconsin. This is my 6th year as a school librarian and 18th year in education. Just a little bit about our district. We have about 1,600 students in the district. We are a small district geography-wise. We're only about 1 mile by 1 mile. We have about 30% of our students come to us from open enrollment from other area districts. And we have 6 schools within 2 buildings. So that makes us a little unique, all of those elements. I'll turn it over to Jen.
Hello, my name is Jen Peterson, and I'm the Library Media Coordinator at the Menasha Joint School District. I'm the one right below Becky there. We have about 3,000 students in our school district and 8 schools, and I am the only library media specialist for the school district. Menasha is an industrial town. We're landlocked. And I would say that about 60% of our population is living at or below poverty. So Emily, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Jen. Hi, I am Emily. I am from the Ithaca School District. So we have the star that's the most southern. Ithaca School District is a very small school. We have about 380 students for K through 12th grade. We're all in one building. And so one school library serves all of the students and the staff and teachers. This is my 5th year in school libraries, but I've been in public libraries for about 10 to 12 years. I forget. So I'm very excited to be with you all here today and to be talking about future ready libraries.
Great, thanks team. So I'm going to start off our presentation today kind of laying the foundation or laying the groundwork for why and how we approached library planning the way we did. So the first two things I want to talk about are pieces of legislation. So we have what's called Wisconsin Administrative Code, and this is a district code. These are things that all school districts need to do in our state. And as you can see, number one on the list is having a board-approved long-range plan for library services. And that's really where we're going to focus our attention today. But I wanted to include the other elements as well, because I'm really proud to come from a state where we have these things written in our legislation. We have, code saying that a licensed library media specialist should be coordinating the district library program. That means different things in different districts. I think all of our 421 districts all look different. And as you heard from the panel, we've got, in the case of Emily being one librarian for 300 students probably looks a lot different than Jen being one librarian for 8 different buildings and 3,000 students. So everybody approaches it a different way, but we have professionals in most of our school districts. We also obviously have code written about our collections being diverse and unbiased, and that we provide library services to all of our students. The other piece of legislation that's pretty important to us in Wisconsin is a state statute around the Common School Fund. And our Common School Fund is very unique. We're the only state in the country that has this wonderful opportunity. We thank our forefathers who wrote our Wisconsin Constitution, because that's where the statute is founded. Basically, we get money used to purchase library books and instructional materials for our school libraries and for our students who are learning Wisconsin history. And that expands out to library computers and software. And all of these purchases are made with approval of the library media specialist. And that plays a huge role into our budgets and into, again, reasoning for having these library plans. Now, having pieces of legislation is great, right? But that isn't the why. That isn't the only reason we do these library plans. In fact, if it was the only reason, I don't think we'd really be able to support this effort. There's always going to be a rule, right? And following the rules seems to be, in some cases, your personality says, I'm going to follow every rule. And in some cases, it's like, how many rules can I break, right? I always like to use the example of, we have speed limit signs that say 55 on the highway. Let's count the cars and see how many of them are actually doing 55, right? So if we were relying only on the legislative requirements, I don't think we'd get much work done. So I say that we kind of do this work on more of a 3-legged stool, all things being equal, and without one of these things, it might collapse. So in addition to legislative requirements, we have the purpose of aligning our library program with district priorities. That's the logical piece, right? That's the piece that builds relationships. That's the piece that makes our library program an integrated part of our schools and not just a silo that stands on its own, which therefore increases the value. So really part of this process is developing relationships and understanding what the district needs are and kind of curving the library program to meet those needs. Again, adding value to the program itself. to others who are not librarians. And then finally, it's best practice. There's literally books on this topic, right? We've got lots of documentation and research that shows a library program needs to have like a scope and sequence, just like a K-12 program in, say, English language arts or science, right? And what the library plan does is it gives us intention, it gives us direction, it allows us to know where to put our focus when things get challenging, when there's a million choices, a million different things to do. How do we focus on which one should get done or which one we say yes to? Well, it's the one that follows with best practice. It's the one that follows, what we've established as the goals for the program. So this journey that we've all been on together has spanned quite a few years at this point, and it continues to grow and evolve every single year. So back in 2017-18, I started with the DPI and really spent that whole first year learning what exactly was going on at like that state level, right? I came out of my district and I needed to understand, urban schools and rural schools and different parts of the state, what everybody was going through and what they needed. Then when I felt I had a handle on that, and I was also given, the Future Ready Librarian framework as a guide to say, we want you to build your work around this. So I did my own professional learning to learn more about that. And that's how I met Shannon. The second year was really, okay, let's start implementation. So I created a process for creating a library plan using the Future Ready Librarian framework. And then I did workshops in our statewide education agencies. We have 12 of these. They're called CISAs, and they hold library network gathering opportunities. And so I did workshops there in that first year. But what I quickly learned was one person can't help 1,000 different librarians all at the same time. So what other things can we do? We got our early adopters on board, but now how could we reach the masses? And I collaborated with ISTE to get Wisconsin versions of one of the ISTE U classes that was created with the help of Mark Ray for Future Ready Librarians. And we found funding through LSTA, the Library Services and Technology Act funding, to say we want one person, at least one person in every single district to be able to take this course. It was an online course. It was a 15-hour time commitment, and it really allowed people to, get started on this planning process and just give some professional learning that people could do in their own time without attending a workshop. Little did I know the pandemic would hit, and being in an online environment would be even more valuable. So once the class was done, we needed people to kind of finish the plan, right? The course only got you so far. It got you to the point where you kind of wrote a goal, but then what else did you need to do to complete that plan? So in 2021 and also in 2022, we worked to get library leaders or library planning leaders together. So some of my panelists on this call were part of those groups where they went out and they provided opportunities for people to come together, to network, to mentor each other, to show drafts, to do all kinds of activities to sort of build camaraderie around library planning. And yet there were still gaps, right? There's still things we needed to do. So we built more tools. And I guess what I'm really trying to share here is this is an ever evolving process that I try to model what I'm asking the librarians out in the districts to do. Do the plan, execute the plan, but then review and revise and, change as needed to make sure you're meeting your goals and moving forward. So I wanted to give that foundation to the group before turning it over to the more exciting part of the presentation, which is really going to be hearing from the panelists. Becky, Emily, and Jen are going to talk about important stories that their library plans help them to tell. They're going to talk about using the Future Ready Librarian framework as an evaluation tool. And they're also going to talk about how this process really was a means to develop stronger networks and more mentorships and opportunities throughout the state. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Emily.
Thank you, Monica. So hello, everyone. I am Emily. I'm happy to be with you today. One of the biggest lessons that I have learned through participating in this process is that good things are happening in our libraries, but often those stories can be invisible stories unless we are advocating and bringing them to the awareness of our stakeholders. So library plans can serve as an advocacy tool to not just guide our program, but to be sharing those stories with stakeholders and connecting the dots for them so they can see how our library programs are directly impacting students and student learning. So I started this process in 2018. That's when I transitioned from working as a youth services public librarian to going into school libraries. Those are two very different environments, even though they're still in the library world. And honestly, it was my first year teaching, and that is a very special year, I think, for everyone. And I just felt that this was something that I needed to do. And so my first year, I spent going through the ISTU course and reflecting on our library program. My second year, I brought our library plan with the goals to the policy committee, and then it was approved by our school board. So it was a 2-year process for me. But along the way, what was the most valuable I realized was the relationship building that was happening between me and representing the library program and our school administrators and our school board members. So the library plan really was a way to be sharing what the library work is happening and where I would like to take the program into the future. And those relationships continued on. Later, a few years later, our superintendent and I were emailing back and forth about the rise in book challenges. And I asked if she thought that the school board would like to come and hear from me talking about intellectual freedom and the work that the library does. And she was supportive. I gave a full presentation to our school board, educating them and reminding them about what intellectual freedom means and what that looks like in the library. So intellectual freedom, I think, is another area that can be invisible work unless we are calling attention to it and being really proactive in sharing everything that libraries do for intellectual freedom and the right to read and how we respond when there are concerns. And what I took away from that experience, which was also very well received by our school board and administration, was that I needed to keep coming back and updating our board regularly about the stories that were happening in our library so that they would know all of these good things that were going on and how they were impacting students. So the image that you see on the left was the first slide in my intellectual freedom presentation. The image on the right was the first slide for the presentation that I just gave to our board last month, where I just updated them about the good things that were happening in our library. So Monica, if you can advance to the next slide, these are two photos that were in that presentation last month. So the first photo on the left is students in a digital citizenship lesson where they are reflecting on their media choices. Adding digital citizenship curriculum was one of our goals in our library plan. We didn't have a curriculum. So this was something that was added, and now our students, kindergarten through 5th grade, are gaining those lessons. And then this picture that is on the right is of Stacy Pilla. She's the lady in the jean jacket, and she is our public library youth services librarian for our area. She came to our school last year and gave presentations about the summer reading program and got the kids excited about the resources that the public library offers. And again, that was one of our goals, was to establish collaborative, intentional partnerships with the public library. And that was also in our plan. So I realized that these were opportunities to be updating our board about the good things that are happening, but also connecting it back to that library plan so that they can see that there is a strategy and a vision for the work that we are doing. So now I would like to ask my friends, Jen and Becky, would you please share, how do you tell your library story?
Yeah, by creating my library plan, it told the story of everything that I was doing for the libraries. And many administrators and board members still think of the library as a warehouse where you store books. And so by writing this library plan, it showed them everything that I was doing that was so much more than just storing books. And it opened up these communication lines, like you said, Emily, administrator, they were saying, oh, maybe you should be on this committee because we talk about this. And even we have high school students that are part of our board. And so the high school students were like, hey, we know that one of your goals now is to get more students to read, and we'd love to help you. So it opened up all those communication lines. How about you, Becky?
For me, I started this position and I was new to the school library profession. The same timeline that Monica joined DPI and walked us through how she implemented the library plan across the state. And being new to the profession and the district, working on the library plan became that vehicle that really, like both of you said, opened up those lines of communication with and building those relationships with both the leadership team as well as the school board when I brought it to them for their approval. So much like your journeys. All right, so I'll take it this next couple slides and share about how we've used the Future Ready Librarian framework as the foundation for our library plans. So like I mentioned, being new to the profession, using this tool, this framework as the foundation allowed me to really look at all aspects of the library and dig deep and examine those areas. When I started, I kind of felt like I don't know what I don't know, and having this tool gave me guidance of what I really needed to be thinking about and evaluating. So that was really helpful. It also helped me take a step back in that planning process and really look at the library program as a whole. And I was at a visionary leadership workshop years ago, and the speaker talked about the forest versus the trees. And I really feel like the Future Ready Librarian framework helped me step back and see that forest view so I could look at all of these different gear areas and see what we were doing well as what we needed to plan for. And because it's so easy to get caught up in that day-to-day to-dos in the library because every day is different and get distracted by like those tree to-dos. So it helped me dig deep and forced me to evaluate all of those areas. So further with using it as an evaluation tool, when Monica went on her roadshow of the 12 CISAs across the state, when she was initially launching this, she developed a tool, I think it was just a Google Doc that she created, and it was kind of a current state and review of your library program. It was a Google Doc that listed each of the wedges, and underneath each wedge area, she had these 5 questions. What goes into this wedge? What are we doing well? What challenges do we face in this area? Who helps us to collaborate? And then what artifacts can we bring to the table that can help us reflect this wedge? And as a solo librarian, district librarian, I came to that workshop and was doing this alone, but I also didn't feel alone in the process because I was with a table of other librarians from that regional area. So walking through and having this evaluation tool in common language was really helpful. So in addition to this needs assessment for the wedges, I also completed the Future Ready Librarian self-reflection tool that's available to us, and I did this with my teammate. So with these 2 pieces of information, this needs assessment and self-reflection tool, we could really look at the data that we were bringing in that needs assessment and really start to translate these ideas into themes and develop our current practices as well as areas that we could grow. And then we translated those into our specific goal areas. So all of that work was leading up to the 2021 school year. So starting the 21-22 school year was our first year of implementation with goals in our library plan. And that first year, 21-22, we took the 2 gear areas that we felt were our greatest opportunities, and those were community partnerships and use of space and time. And I think for that year, we wrote our goals too generically. So we just said we're going to focus on these 2 wedge areas, and within them, we are going to accomplish X number of activities or programs that would fall within those gear areas. And it became really difficult at the end of the year when we're trying to pull together all of this data and reflect on it and analyze it and report back out on it. So moving into this current school year, we knew we needed to modify our goals a little bit. And so this year we created 1 SMART goal that was very specific, that we knew that we could at the end bring data to analyze and say, did we accomplish this or not? And in addition to that, we then aligned it to what Future Ready Librarian gear areas it aligns to, as well as our district strategic plan. So we had backing from both the Future Ready Librarian framework as well as our district plan. And then work smarter, not harder, right? So we made our library SMART goal, our library plan SMART goal, also our student program outcome evaluation goal, and our PLC team goal. So it brought it all together for us. Beyond just reporting out on our specific SMART goals for each year, we also put together a yearly reflection as like on a whole, looking at all of those areas. Because even though those are our goal areas, we're still doing all of the other gears. So we put together a reflection of things that we were doing and often add in pictures to help tell that story, like Emily said. And then we report that back out on our library plan and share it with stakeholders. And it also is a really cool thing at the end of the year for us as a team to look at and say, wow, like the year flies by, but then we get to the end and we see all of the cool things that we've been able to accomplish. So it really becomes a celebration piece for us as well. So Emily and Jen, would you like to share how you use this to evaluate your library programs?
I will go first. So hi, this is Emily again. So I do a little bit of a different system than what Becky was talking about. So I actually use the framework to create a faculty activity report. And this is something that I just do for myself personally. It's not required by my district. But on my document, I have all of the wedges listed, and then I'm tracking my activities or the activities of the library throughout the year, and I'm adding that information in. So at the end of the year, I can assess which wedges of that framework had heavy investment and which wedges perhaps did not. And then to reflect, am I okay with that? Should I keep on investing time and energy into wedges that obviously are very strong? Or do I need to start diverting those time and energy resources into wedges that might need more attention? So it was a way for me to see what I was doing a year at a glance and to see exactly where our investments are going. Jen, how about you?
Well, once I had my library plan in place, it was really easy to write my personal goals at the beginning of the school year. So personal goals and library goals are one and the same, and you can use the data to showcase both. So it wasn't like I'm writing this library plan and I'm writing these personal goals. It really wasn't that much more work, and they just flow really nice together. So I don't know if I mentioned in the very beginning, but I have been in the library for 24 years. And unfortunately, it's a growing trend in our state that we have solo librarians. And so fortunately for me and for the others of us out there, we have a lot of networking opportunities in our state, so we never feel alone. And for many years in our state, the library plan was actually something that we worked on together with the tech director. And it was more about what we had in our library, not what we were doing. It would be like, we have X number of books in our library, we have X number of computers, we have Wi-Fi access or whatever. And it was nothing about the programming of the library. So when that changed, and the state made these library plans separate from the tech, but they didn't really give a plan on how they wanted them laid out. There was a lot of us that were really quite lost because we were so used to that survey that we used to fill out. And so especially for the solo librarians like myself, who really didn't have anyone to bounce ideas off of, it was really nice that when the ISTU classes came about, it was something where we could work together as a state because it was only Wisconsin school librarians, and we could work together and make these plans and learn all about the Future Ready framework. Then once the ISTU class was completed, Monica picked some people like myself and Emily who had their plans completed, and we led library planning groups. We helped mentor other state school librarians who had taken the ISTU course but still weren't quite completed, and we kind of helped maybe not make them, but we helped them to complete their library plans. Then once library plans are complete and board approved, we are asked to post them on WiseLearn, which is our state resource platform. And that way other librarians can look them over and get ideas from other people's library plans. So if you're kind of lost as to where to even start, you can go out there and you can look them over and be like, oh, yeah, that's maybe something that I might do, or get an idea of how you want to template it or something. And then other opportunities we have within the state to network are our bi-monthly virtual DPI meetings that Monica holds. It's another chance to learn from each other and ask questions. The person who held Monica's job before her, she was kind of elusive, and it sometimes took months for questions to be answered. And so this is really nice because twice a month you have the opportunity, if you can attend these meetings, that there's a portion at the end of the meeting where Monica just stays on. And if you have any kind of question, you can ask her. Not that she wouldn't answer you if you emailed her, but at least it's just another way to contact her. Beyond that, we also have the State Library Google Current channel, and that is where we can ask questions at any time, and other librarians will help you out. You can say like, hey, what are you using for videos for your kindergarten or something like that, and there's a lot of people that will pipe in and tell you. We also have the CISAs, which Monica mentioned, and they usually hold meetings for school librarian groups like once or twice a year. We also have WIMTA, which is our state association, and they hold a big conference once a year where we can all get together. But beyond that, they also have webinars where they talk about hot topics such as book purchasing policies and maybe even library planning. So I feel very grateful to live in the state of Wisconsin, and even just being the solo librarian, I don't feel alone, because there are so many people that I've met this way, and there's so many people that I can just reach out to and look, if I need any help or anything, I can just reach out to them. So how about you, Becky and Emily?
Like Jen, I started my journey as a standalone librarian serving the district. And even though each of us are unique with our district and what our district's needs are, having the Future Ready Librarian framework as the foundation for our plan just allows us to have that common language and come together to support each other while still being unique. And in addition to the opportunities that Jen mentioned, when I first started, a friend of mine that's just up the road is a school librarian, and we put an email out to everybody that we knew in the area asking, do you want to get together a couple times a year? And so we created our own kind of grassroots Northeast Wisconsin library network. And we meet usually 4 to 5 times a year and take turns hosting. And it's just a group-driven agenda, so we can add whatever topics we need help or support from. So just having that Future Ready framework as that foundation helps us, even if we are alone in our district, continue to support each other. So I'm really grateful for all of my friends, and even Emily. She's now in the southwest part of the state, and maybe she'll join us for one of our virtual meetings. So it's been a fun opportunity to help support each other and celebrate each other too.
Thank you, Becky, and thank you for that invitation again. That is just so welcoming. So I would just want to say that the framework and the library plan was very helpful for me as a professional who was entering into school libraries by giving me a common vocabulary with my colleagues. And so I knew what questions to ask and what the topics of the field were. In public library world, the needs are different and our work is slightly different than in school libraries. And so when I came into this world, it was a bit of a culture shock, and I didn't know what the conversation was, and I didn't know necessarily what questions to be asking so that I could learn and start participating in that conversation. And so it might sound silly, but just giving someone a common vocabulary to talk to their colleagues with was very helpful and affirming for me to start building relationships and collaborations that otherwise may have taken longer to build. So for that, I'm very thankful. And again, Becky, thank you for that invitation.
I'm just going to jump in here and express my gratitude for these 3 people. Like, they are just a small core group of some of the many amazing professionals in our state, and my job would not be what it is without them. As Jen said, I came into an environment that was very different and sort of built an entirely different culture around like being a school librarian and what we needed to do in our state. And I think that taking that library planning piece from checking the box to something that can really build relationships, that can show true value to a program and be an advocacy tool, as well as being a common way to talk about libraries together. Those are 3 really important things that came out of this whole journey, and continue as the journey continues. And I think this is a great time to loop back to Shannon, because as somebody who has just been a key person with Future Ready Librarians and one of my early mentors, it just goes to show that this is a solid framework that has really benefited a lot of libraries across the country.
No, I'm so glad that you said that too, Monica, because just listening to your story, not only is it so inspiring what you've all done, and within my school, I'm in a school district here in Iowa with preschool to 12th grade. We have about 1,000 kids in one building. That's our whole entire district. And oftentimes you do feel like you're all by yourself, like you're on this island, by yourself, and that you're the only person in your school. But now I'm super lucky, and I have a great associate, and I have instructional people that I work with. But the neat thing about Future Ready Librarians is that it doesn't matter if you're in your state, or if you're halfway across the country, or if you're right next door to somebody, that I think we're all in this together is something that really speaks to all of us as librarians. And it's something that I am so grateful for too, because we have this network that continues to grow. And like, I feel so inspired by everything that all of you shared today. And it's just so neat to follow your story. And I know that others will love it too. I think it's great.
Thank you so much.
So do you guys, I have to ask, do you do things in the summertime then, like with your network too? Like, is there any special things that you do in the summertime?
For our Northeast Wisconsin group, we haven't done anything in the summer, but that would be a really fun idea.
I know I've got a core group of librarians that are from our largest urban school districts that get together occasionally. And they actually chose to meet this summer, which I'm really excited about. So for the first time, we're going to do a summer meeting, and we're going to do it at a fun location. We're going to do it at a book garden. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I just think that's the next evolution of the relationships that we're building across the state. It's great.
That's so cool. Your administrators too have to be so grateful for the work that you've done, Monica, and this group, like the work that you're doing and just what you can model and show to other librarians who aren't just like new to the state, but maybe they're, new to really making a difference within their communities. And for administrators to understand what librarians do, like that's key, right? To everything that we do within our school district. So they have to be just so grateful for that work as well. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you guys are amazing. And I just want you all to tell everybody where to find you online. If you have like a Twitter, or if you have a website, or maybe you even don't, you can say that too. But I think that that's really important for people to understand where they can continue to follow your story and connect with all of you too.
I have a Twitter, but I rarely go on it anymore. I used to be like a Twitteraholic, and so I had to kind of give it up.
I love it.
Jen, I'm kind of in the same boat. I was heavy Twitter user and have scaled back. But maybe we can link our library plans in the presentation. So at least you could see what our plan is about and see some examples that way.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Emily, are you online?
I am online, but it's very interesting. I'm trying to scale back and not be online as much. So that is just kind of a self-care strategy that I am choosing, and it has actually been very effective. So if anyone else is thinking about doing that, I would strongly encourage it. So I am very good at email, and I love to write like personal notes to people and have like real conversations that way, instead of just blasting things out into the void and seeing if a conversation happens. So if anyone was to send me an email, I really would value that back and forth communication, or even a phone call. So I am going old school, and I will have to say that I am really enjoying it, and I'm finding that the interactions that I have feel more meaningful that way. So if anyone is considering it, I highly recommend.
That's awesome. And Monica, do you want to share anything on?
Yeah, I'm laughing because I always feel like I'm the only one in the room that's not on social, and now I hear my colleagues saying the same thing. But I know in the slides, the websites for the state agency are listed, which I've done a lot of work in developing to have a lot of information. And of course, my email address is there as well, which is my preferred mode of communication. So, yeah, so great. I welcome anybody to reach out.
Yeah, thank you, friends. That's awesome. So I'm going to share just a few little ways to stay connected and find more information. If Future Ready Librarians is new to you, or even if you're looking for a place to find everything, the Future Ready Librarians Hub is a great spot because it has the framework and events and all kinds of things that you can find on there. A few things that we have coming up. We have our book club that we kick off on June 6th. My good friend Joe and his amazing book, Lead From Where You Are, is going to be our book this year. Always one of my favorite things to do in the summer is our summer book club. And this is a great way just to kind of hone your skills too on leadership. Another thing that I wanted to share is our Future Ready Schools Leadership Forum. These are a new partnership with our friends at Capstone and the University of Pennsylvania. And this time we are in Ohio and ISTE too. And this is going to be, I'm really excited because it's going to be in June. And Bill Bass and Adam File and myself, and we're also going to have Tom Murray at this one, will be facilitating it. But these are great one-day events. If you're in that area, we would love to have you join us. This summer, I'm doing a webinar series. This is going to be a series around leadership. And so in June, we have being a library leader through literacy. In July, we have through technology integration. And then in August, very excited, I get to have one of my dear friends, Joyce Valenza, on, and we're going to talk about being a library leader this school year. And so you can find the link there to register, and the link will take you there too, the QR code. But a few things that as we go into the summer, and this is the time of year that I like to set goals, and I'm working on my professional development plan for school. And one thing that I pull up, because I am the only librarian within my district, is the self-reflection tool. And this is helpful not only to me, but also a great thing to share with my administrators and even in my professional development plan. So you can find that linked as well. And as you're having these conversations, the conversation starter is always a wonderful thing. And if talking to your administrators or even talking to your teachers or school board members, if that is something that is new to you, then this is something that you can pull out wherever step. You don't even have to go in order, whatever is helpful for you, giving you examples and guidelines and really just walking you through what having conversations are all about. The podcast, I am excited to link to this today because Monica and I just did a podcast, which is why I asked them to be on the webinar today. But our podcast, we're on season number 6, which is crazy to think about. And we've had so many amazing guests this season, but in all of the other seasons that we've had too. You can find it wherever you subscribe to your podcast at. And as I said, Monica was a guest of mine. We just featured her, and you can find it linked in the slides. So all of the past episodes and everything are online there. Just like our webinars, this one will be also on our YouTube, and you can find them linked at the URL at the bottom with all of the other ones that we've done over the years. But if you're not connected on the Future Ready Librarian Facebook group, I would highly recommend it. Great things being shared all the time, and just a good place to find ideas, find people, share ideas, and I get different resources from there every time. So as always, it was great to have everybody join us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian webinar series. We will kick off again in the fall, but please join us for our book club because we would love to have you this summer. And stay connected and remember to use these hashtags for that conversation. A big thank you too, before we go, to the program support that we have from our friends at Follett. You are amazing in everything that you do and how you support us and our students and our communities every single day. But as you're watching and getting ready for the summer, thank you for joining us. And we hope that you take some time for you this summer and remember all the amazing things you do as Future Ready Librarians. So thank you, Wisconsin friends. You guys are awesome. And I just appreciate everything that you shared.